July 23rd, Mincaye. When your life has been transformed, be intentional. Give back. Deep in the jungles of Ecuador, a Waodani warrior named Mincaye befriended a skinny 9-year-old boy named Steve Saint. Mincaye called him Bebe. 4 years earlier, Mincaye and some other warriors had surrounded and murdered the boy's father, missionary Nate Saint. Now the boy had come back to the jungle to visit the current missionaries. "The boy can't make poison darts or use a blowgun," Mincaye told the boy's aunt. "He can't pull a canoe, he can't build a house or climb trees or track animals. He doesn't know anything. Who's going to teach him to live?" The boy's aunt looked Mincaye in the eye and asked him, in light of the fact that Mincaye had speared the boy's father to death, "Who do you say should teach him to live?" Mincaye walked away. When she had first told Mincaye about the Creator's Son, Mincaye had said he could not see the Creator's trail. Then Jesus' blood cleaned him, and Mincaye began to see like a clear sky with no clouds in it. Mincaye returned and told her, "I, having spear-killed his father, I myself will teach Bebe how to live." During school vacations, when Bebe visited, Mincaye treated him like family. The boy learned to hunt monkeys, to spear fish, and to climb tall trees. Mincaye helped Steve become a man. Later, Steve married and brought his family to live with Mincaye and his people in Ecuador. Mincaye adopted Steve's children as his grandchildren, and he even helped baptize them. They called him Grandfather Mincaye, a name Mincaye welcomed with a smile. After Steve's family moved to Florida, Grandfather Mincaye would visit them occasionally. During one of his visits, the unthinkable happened. Steve's only daughter, Stephanie, collapsed and was rushed to the hospital. She had suffered a brain aneurysm. As medical personnel rushed about, Mincaye became agitated, while Steve sat frozen in disbelief. Mincaye grabbed him and said he saw what was happening well. "Don't you see? The Creator, who loves Stephanie, is taking her to live with him now." Mincaye said, "Being an old man, I will go live there too very soon. Stephanie and I will be there waiting, happily, to greet you." The anguish on Steve's face remained, but the hopelessness faded. When it was time to return to the jungle, it was hard for Mincaye to leave. Steve and his family still had to do the hard work of healing from Stephanie's death, and Mincaye felt responsible for being part of the healing process. Still, Mincaye couldn't stay in Florida forever, so he returned to his village. One day, while back in the jungles of Ecuador, Mincaye had a premonition that Steve had been hurt. People told Mincaye that Steve was fine, but Mincaye asked them to phone America. Mincaye was right. Steve was involved in a tragic accident that left him without the use of his arms and legs. Mincaye and his wife traveled back to Florida, where they cared for Steve and comforted his family. They stayed with the Saints for 6 weeks. One Sunday, Mincaye went to church with the family. Steve sat in a space reserved for wheelchairs, and when it was time for communion, Mincaye rushed to help him. He grabbed one handle of the wheelchair, and Steve's son Jamie grabbed the other. 3 generations made family by the blood of Jesus celebrated communion together. As Mincaye prepared to return to the jungle, Steve was filled with sadness. There was a time when he had longed for the presence of his father, whom Mincaye had killed. Now he longed for the presence of the man who killed his father, Grandfather Mincaye, the man who taught him how to live. Ephesians chapter 5, verse 2 says, "Walk in the way of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God." This story teaches us that God's love can turn enemies into friends and friends into family. When your life has been transformed, be intentional. Give back.
Hello, my name is George Morrison. I pastored in the Denver metro area for some 40 years, and now we have a ministry called Truth and Life Ministry where we travel around the world teaching on leadership. Our story today is about a gentleman named Mincaye. He is from Ecuador. He was part of the Waodani tribe there. And there are so many parts to this story that we can't cover it in this little challenge that I'm going to give you. But as you'll notice as you listen to this story, there is a challenge for each and every one of us. First of all, we need to recognize that God is able to redeem people from the deepest parts of darkness. And here was a tribes person, a hunter, someone who killed missionaries, and yet God was able to take this man and, because of God's redemption through Jesus Christ, change his life totally around to become a preacher of the gospel and lead many of his tribes people to the Lord, and also encourage others around the world with his story of redemption and of God's love. I want to challenge you today that nothing is impossible for God. He can change people that come out of the greatest pits of darkness to the marvelous light that Jesus Christ provides. We just need to trust him. We just need to follow him as we learn of God's love and how we then can turn around and express that same love to other people in spite of all circumstances. You know, God will give us the grace to forgive. God will give us the grace to love those who hated us and their intentions were evil for us. But God can turn that around. And I'm trusting that God will lead you in that way of love. As Christ loved us, let us go forth and love other people the same way. God bless you.